We will try this again. Okay, we're going to be down here in Culture Part 4. You can either find that just by scrolling down, or you can do a Control F and type in cultural rules, would jump you to the right page. The other thing you need to do is click on the link to go to Pear Deck. And there is your join code. The code's going to remain in the upper right-hand corner. Go ahead and begin. Okay, our objectives today are to learn about different types of cultural rules. We're going to be thinking primarily in terms of categories and rules from less serious to more serious. And we're also going to talk about culture as a form of social control. So you should be able to discuss that and understand the ways in which culture can be thought of as social control and whether maybe that's a good or a bad thing. And, of course, as the objectives imply, rules are an inherent part of culture. A lot of what we're going to be talking about here are norms, right? And unfortunately not the fun-loving but kind of dryly sarcastic norm from Cheers fame, but instead norms as in socially agreed upon standards of behavior. These are kind of the bread and butter of cultural rules. Now, norms can be formalized. They can be something that we write down. Kind of like your expectations matrix that occasionally somebody might talk to you about. I don't know, does anybody talk to you about the Central High School expectation matrix? Okay. Right. Well, there is one. And it's around, but no, we don't talk about it necessarily a whole lot. Generally outside of my freshman classes, I don't seem to need to refer to it all that often. But they are formal and they're written down. And if you feel like this is just something that indicates that our school is broken, it's not. I've been to some of the really fancy upscale high schools in our area, and they have the same things kicking around, sometimes even more obvious than ours. There are also informal norms. These are things that are, as you might have guessed, not written down, but are typically understood by most members of a society. At the more serious end of this are the mores, which is kind of annoying, I know, because it's just spelled like Moors. Now, I would encourage you, and this just makes it all hokier and doesn't help with the pronunciation issue. But I would encourage you to think of mores as the more serious norms. These tend to be, some of these approach what we would consider like taboos, right? These are the really important norms about basics of right and wrong, right, of morals that you do not violate. Things like norms against murder, norms against incest, right, all kinds of things like that. And then at the other extreme are, that will disappear and come back. And give us our text back. Okay, there we go. These are really basic kind of workaday norms that are just about basic, decent conduct that we often follow without even thinking about it. And again, just because they're not serious and are followed unconsciously doesn't mean they're not important or powerful. Right? This is not a rule that really applies in this class because it hasn't needed to, but in my freshman class, there are a long list of rules about things you cannot do during a do now or an exit slip quiz. And one of those is talking. No talking, freshmen. Sorry, no offense to the freshmen in here. Right? But they can't do it. And yet, right, if somebody sneezes, right, as Chris sneezed during the do now, it's all right. It's perfectly allowed, Chris. It's not uncommon for one of those freshmen, even one who is typically very good at following the rule against talking during a quiz, to still say, bless you, right? Because that's a Folkway. It's something we just kind of do, right? I always give them zeros just out of spite because I am a horrible person, right? I think, as we all know, right, it's been very clearly indicated to the whole class that I am a horrible person, right? But no, in fact, I don't ding them, right? I get it. It's a Folkway, right? It's like a knee-jerk response to a situation. Okay. That, for more of a concrete example of this, in the Pear Deck, right, I want you to respond to this question considering the scenario in this image. Right? Imagine that you are driving the vehicle that I have so elegantly circled. Right? What should you try to do for the merging car? There should be a box around them. I don't know why the box has gone away. Right? What should you, as the car in the circle, the driver of the car in the circle, do for the car that is trying to merge? Most of you are quite a ways through your response. Let's go ahead and time it out. Okay, and so our various responses kind of take one of these two forms. Either move into the other lane, right, or slow down, give them room to merge into traffic. That's probably best thought of as a Folkway. Right? I mean, how many of you actually, you drive and you've done this for somebody? Right? And you just, that tends to be your habit. Right? No, not for Robert. Well, some of you, you're a freshman, right? I did not actually realize you were a freshman. You should take that as a compliment. No offense. Who are my other freshmen? I'll just flush you all out right now. All right. Yeah, no, that's good. Wait, Bobby, you're also a freshman? Okay, see, I would not have guessed it because you guys don't act like my freshmen in world history classes. All right. So some of you aren't old enough to drive anyway, right? But most of us do this. How many of you that are drivers get angry when somebody does not follow that folk way for you? I know I do. Right? But legally, in terms of, this is not a moray, because we're just talking about basic traffic stuff, but what does the law say? You don't have to, right? They're supposed to yield to you. Right? And yet, Ashland and myself get angry when somebody does not move over for us. Right? Does that mean Ashland's a bad person? No. We've already decided, I am irredeemable. But, Ashland is fine. And it's just a folk way, right? But it's the thing we automatically do. Right? Now, I will occasionally, if I can't let somebody over and they seem to be angry about it, I'm like, you have to yield to me. Right? We know. If we actually stop to think about it, we recognize that there is a written norm in the form of traffic laws that says that person has to yield. Right? And I will tell myself that when I've gotten angry at somebody for not moving over. I'll still be angry at them, especially if they had no excuse to not get over. But that's a folk way in action. All right, I always do that. Skip it. It was, of course, folk way. All right. Now we're going to move on to what seems like the seedy side of cultural rules. But I want to be careful with this. There's a good reason that social control is part of culture. Societies do try to make sure that their norms are followed at all levels, whether it's folkways, norms, or mores. And they do this in terms of, one, positive sanctions. These are rewards. They can be approval. Right now, I realize a lot of you are teenagers. If we were in Mr. Fox's psychology class, we'd be talking about how you're really becoming more individualized and trying to establish and reinforce your own self-identity, and you don't think you need approval from anybody, but you do. Right? Maybe not approval from me or other oldsters, but probably approval from your friends. And so that's a positive sanction. Same goes with acceptance. You may not feel like you need the acceptance of oldsters, but if your friends snubbed you, that would probably hurt. I want you to give me in the Pear Deck a classroom appropriate positive sanction you have received. All right. Come on, show us the responses. Okay, so grades. Yeah, we give you high grades, which you can see as approval or a reward. Approval in terms of a comment. You did a really good job on that assignment. Trophy for baseball. Money, right? We reward people for showing up to work by paying them money. Okay, yeah, positive affirmations. Congratulations from friends. Compliments, a high five. Yeah, all of these things are examples of positive social sanctions that you have received. But societies also ensure conformity to norms through negative sanctions. Things like punishments. Whether we're talking about the imprisoned inmates here under the supervision of the panopticon. I know that just makes it look really creepy. Disapproval, right? Which again, you guys might be thinking, I'm a teenager, I don't need anybody's approval, I don't care if they don't like the way I do things, but you do, right? You care about somebody's disapproval. And then right, there's ostracism. And this, right, of course, is the negative sanction in traditional societies, particular among Aborigines, of turning outcasts into ostriches, forcing them to bury their heads in the sand for all eternity. I think I've got that. That's the meaning, right? I think, Jaden, that's the Merriam-Webster definition of ostracism, right? Yeah, all right, Jaden's being nice because he doesn't want to be punished. No, ostracism means, it means shunning somebody, rejecting them from society. Right? In its extreme form. What's happening, Pear Deck? Okay, in its extreme form, it's the Amish. Now you guys are going to think I'm just obsessed with the Amish. They just happen to provide us some really good sociological examples. They have something called shunning, right? And if, let's say, Maverick, right, cannot turn away from that technology, or buttons, right? And say he wants to grow a mustache, right? All of those things would be against Amish social rules, and they would shun him. Right? Everybody would pretend that he was dead and didn't exist. Right? That's it. Right? His family members would mourn him as if he was dead. Right? If they saw him, they would look right past him as if he was not standing there. Right? It might seem in some ways kind of like a pouting child's response, but it's not. It's a very serious part of their culture, and it's one of the ways that they enforce conformity. We're going to look at another example now. This has fallen some ways down from the headlines, partly due to time and partly because other things have happened. But I want you to think about the type of negative sanction that best describes what has happened to Kevin Spacey after he was accused of sexual misconduct. And I will watch a video because I assume at this point many of you may not even know who Kevin Spacey is or that there was ever any problem where he was accused of misconduct. Make sure I've got volume set up right for this. Okay. And again, as you watch, type in the form of sanction you think best describes what's happened to him.
Amid that sexual misconduct accusation, Netflix announcing the end of House of Cards, and Spacey also losing an award. Isn't that right?
That's right, Robin. We all know Kevin Spacey has been one of the most praised actors in Hollywood, but this morning he is now facing a storm of criticism on social media and beyond. This morning, Kevin Spacey in a drama of his own. The House of Cards star under fire following allegations of sexual misconduct.
And this chamber chooses to debate me?
Overnight, Netflix and the studio behind the hit political drama saying both are deeply troubled by the accusations against the actor. The show announcing Monday the season currently being filmed will be its last. Netflix says the end of House of Cards is not related to Sunday's accusation. But Spacey is already experiencing fallout in Hollywood. The International Academy announcing overnight it will no longer honor Spacey with the Founders Emmy at an upcoming award show.
It remains to be seen what damage this will do to Kevin Spacey's career. When these kind of sexual harassment accusations come up, typically there is quite a backlash, and Kevin Spacey is no exception.
The two-time Academy Award-winning actor has a number of projects due in the upcoming months, including Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World. The Sony production still reportedly set to release in December in the heart of awards season. Spacey also under fire for his reaction to actor Anthony Rapp's allegations that when he was just 14, 1 year before he starred in Adventures in Babysitting,
where are you going?
Spacey made sexual advances toward him after a party when they were both on Broadway. Spacey was 26. Spacey apologizing on Twitter, saying he was beyond horrified to hear Rapp's story, but also using the same apology to open up about his sexual orientation, writing, "In my life, I have had relationships with both men and women. I choose now to live as a gay man." That statement drawing fire, many saying addressing his sexuality was a tactic he was using to distance himself from the allegations of abuse of a minor. GLAAD's president sending this tweet, writing, "Coming out stories should not be used to deflect from allegations of sexual assault." The final season of House of Cards is right now in production, and Netflix says Spacey is not currently on the set, but executives have met with the cast and crew to ensure that they feel, quote, safe and supported.
Let's bring in Dan, bring him back for this, because at the very least, extremely disturbing, these allegations. What about the legal implications?
So we've talked about this a lot before, which is this question of statute of limitations. We've now discussed it in the context of Bill Cosby. We've discussed it in the context of Harvey Weinstein. It seems to come up again and again. This is an allegation from the mid-1980s. So I don't think it's any question the statute of limitations is expired, both in terms of a possible criminal charge or even a civil case that he could bring. Now, typically when you're dealing with a child, the statute of limitations tolls, meaning pauses until the person gets to be 18. And then the statute of limitations starts. But you're talking here as a technical matter, not even about a sexual assault, because he says it was an attempted sexual assault, which means you typically have an even shorter statute of limitations. But even if it was a sexual assault here, the statute of limitations would have expired.
And speaking of that, because...
Okay, so in terms of punishments, let's see what you guys came up with. And kind of got a mix for a very long time. It was tied 2-2-2. Really, I mean, it's... All three of these are certainly involved. Punishments, right? He's lost awards. Now you can see that as disapproval. But what has he lost in addition to awards? Career. And what does he get in that career? Money, right? Lots of money. So he's faced that. Now, I left the video long enough. Is he likely to face legal punishment for like criminal punishment? No, right? Because of the statute of limitations. Right? But he certainly has faced punishment in terms of loss of career and income and loss of awards, which could also be part of disapproval. And then, of course, ostracism. I mean, he's been cut out of a lot of stuff. I mean, I suppose we could replace this Kevin Spacey scenario now. I mean, certainly I don't want to say that they're at the same level, but what has happened with Will Smith after slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars? Yeah, can't go for 10 years. Was there anything else, or was that it? I'll be honest, I did not care quite enough to read past that headline.
Still get awards, stuff you just can't count.
Okay, so much more limited. In terms of this. I mean, it's not ostracism in that he's being shut out. All right. Was there anything else that went along with that? I don't think he's faced any other punishment. He did get to keep the award he got at this Oscars, right? Anybody know? Okay, I've got small kids, so mostly, I just know that Sophia the First is up to stuff. Right? And if Sophia the First ever wins an Oscar, I'll probably know about it. But otherwise, I don't get out very much. All right. Okay, that leads us to the end there. We don't have quite enough time for an exit slip. I know you're all heartbroken about that. I have unpublished it, so if you saw it and now it's not there, that's why, and you don't need to worry about it. What you do need to do is upload your Part 4 notes.